We all must be part of the governance. So join Deddy Crease every day 8 p.m. to dissect on the political situation in Nigeria.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the time where we dissect on the political situation in Nigeria, Africa, and the Black race in China. Tonight we're going to do something very sensitive, but let me quickly run a little thing with you what we do right here on this show. Politics time is always, Sunday is my main time. I'm begging them to give me better time, but this is the time they choose to give to me, so I'm still here. Today I'm with Dr. Charles. I have to pull him onto the show. What are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about coup in Africa. What is a coup? And I'm going to allow Dr. Charles to work. I'm going to worry him a lot tonight because I know he will probably not agree with some of the things. These are doctors, so they don't listen to what I say all the time. But my interpretation of it is they are all coups. A coup is any attempt to forcefully take power, be it by God, by money, or even if you threaten, any way you take the power, if it is by force, if it's against the will of the people, that is a coup. And that's what we're talking about tonight. Doctor, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Plain pleasure of being here.
Yes, sir. So, sir, let's go straight to the issue today. Africa is slowly going back to what do I call them? Those days when the military juntas were taking over power. Yeah, we may see it as something wrong, but they came into power because there was a vacuum in the way the civilian operates. But before we get into that, let us define what is a coup.
Well, a coup by definition means that people who are not elected, particularly military juntas, who are supposed to be protecting the territorial integrity of a country, decide to forcibly remove the government,
the democratically
elected government. It could also be a coup against another junta.
Good.
So they forcibly remove
a junta. And government.
Yeah, and replace it with themselves.
See, tonight, sir, really what I want us to dwell on is really the kind of governance in Africa that is attracting this kind of coup. And, okay, let me put it this way. If I forcefully take power, maybe if I'm not a military person, and I take the power against the will of the people, is that not equal to a coup?
Well, you could say that, but in terms of politics terms, we call it ringed. The election is rigged.
And for me,
but you could say that it has the same effect. Thank you. In the sense that,
so in other words, you agree with me, sir, that the ringed election could be called a coup.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a coup because you forcibly take power from the government. You understand?
You forcibly impose yourself
as a leader
on the country without legitimate means to be able to do so. You're not voted for. You are kind of usurping the position you have, either because you have contact, you have money, or you have influence, and you are able to manipulate the system to impose yourself on the people. In that process, disenfranchising the general populace.
Yes. And there's legitimacy in it. That's the most annoying part. So it's not like somebody that forcefully. For me, if you influence a woman to sleep with her, you don't have to rape her. Then when you use gun to rape her, you still rape her because if you tell her, if you don't do this, I won't give you this, maybe because of hunger, and she decides to go to bed with you, that's a rape.
That's true. Both instances, if we look at both phenomena,
yes,
in a true sense of things, there's both of them are illegitimate seizure of power. Whether you're using the ballot boxes, you're rigging it through the ballot boxes, or activities that accumulate to the actual election process. Because a lot of us think that the rigging of election takes place at the ballot box.
Yes.
Sometimes the rigging would have taken place far before the actual election.
Like what happened in Nigeria last time. Anyway, we don't want to go into that because we don't want to agree that what happened in Nigeria is not because there's a case in court. Let's hope that the court will do justice to what they have.
Well, at least we are lucky that we have a system in place that is being tested to the full.
I disagree. Look at what is happening in Cameroon, for instance. There's one idiot there. I call him an idiot because you agree with me that for you to stick to power for those number of years and nobody is good as you, and the man is working. Have you seen him, my friend? The Cameroonian leader. And why would there be no coup in such a country?
I think there are some leaders that becomes some autocratic leaders that become emperors, and because of the fact that they've been able to buy the systems, the ruling systems, the ruling class, they bought themselves favor, ensuring that they're paying juicy salary to the military and other people around. Then they can impose themselves
and continue to impose themselves, and in fact destroy the future of a generation. That is the most important thing.
I think that is the most difficult aspect of this sort of behavior, because the assumptions by those people is that they are better or they are best for the country.
They are good, and they deceive them. You see, like we were having a little chat yesterday when I was talking to one of the analysts in Nigeria who was supposed to join us today. I just gave him a time, go have only 30 minutes to do this. And he said that those people who they call the so-called advisors to our leaders, they are actually our problem. They don't tell them the truth. They don't let them see what is to see. If I tell you that President Tinubu cannot see some of the things people say, he probably not have a good night's sleep, which I can understand, but he needs to see some of this reality in order to make some adjustment to the way he does things.
The thing is that some of the advisors, not all of them, by virtue of the power distance between them and the people they're advising or their boss and themselves, tend to sometimes play a lot of eye service to their boss and cheat their boss from the reality on the ground, which can be quite catastrophic for the leaders in concern. Exactly. Leaders need to know how they've been received in the country or in the society or in their constituency, so that they know how to better engage the electorate or people that elect them to their various positions. But what we have is that we have a lot of our so-called advisors who become willing tools, who manipulate reality and often fail to present the reality to their bosses. And in that sense, the bosses are aloof from what is happening in the real world.
Doctor, this is a big challenge in our time. This is a time where we claim to be educated, we claim there's democracy, we understand the rule of law. I'm talking of the educated elites now.
Yes.
They understand what we're saying, because I've been talking to a lot of Nigerians, and I'm talking to you, you know your onions. Yet we allow this kind of practices to reign supreme in our society. Who is to be blamed here?
Well, I think the whole of us needs to be blamed. We all share a part of this. It's the way that society socializes its citizens, and that's what is creating some of this problem in terms of what the society regard as normal, how they've normalized bad behaviors, how they've normalized things that
become acceptable. Yeah. You know? And when you come up with it, they say you to be rude, and you're not
because then it means that you are challenging the status quo, and these people often do not want to be challenged.
Let's go straight to Africa. Currently, I'm going to use only 2 countries, and for me, there should be more coup in West Africa. Let's talk about West Africa, right? If we have a president of Cameroon, I don't know you, sir, and I don't like you because you've been there old. In fact, you are a living corpse running a country meaning you just hold the destiny of some young people. Now look at Niger. Niger has come up with soon. Burkina Faso is there, and it is taking over the West African coast. You can see.
Yeah, it's taking over an area in West Africa they call the Sahara of Africa.
The Sahara.
Yeah.
All right.
So the Sahara of Africa comprises like Mauritania, Mali.
Mali is on military.
Yeah. Okay. Like Niger, Chad.
Chad is on military.
Yeah, they are on that border stretch. You know, we have Sub-Saharan Africa. We also have another place they call Sahara of Africa. Okay. What seems to be happening is that across that area, there seems to be a growing phenomenon that's happening.
Of young people
they're taking on the matter of leadership by force.
Yes.
By virtue of the fact that they are the military juntas.
Would you really blame them for this? Because if you imagine what was happening in Niger or in Burkina Faso, or for instance, even in Nigeria, where we have civilian rule for some years with nothing to account for it, where the gap between the rich and the poor, the civilian, look at what is happening, sir. If Nigerian government, whether civilian or military, I don't know what they call themselves, if they can distance themselves so much from the people, is this what we call democracy?
Well, democracy, the way it's supposed to play out, in the theoretical part of democracy is power for the people and for the people and by the people. But the practice of democracy across the whole of sub-Saharan African region is power for the rich, by the rich, and for the rich.
So let's start that. Power by the rich,
for the rich,
and by the rich.
You know, so
I will take that from Dr. Charles. Listen, America, this Abraham Lincoln said, democracy is power, the government of the people, for the people, and by the people. But in our continent, it's government of the rich, by the rich, and for the rich.
Yeah. Because look at the whole process of even getting elected to Senate, to House of Representatives.
Oh my God.
Across all the political parties.
Yes. And it's all.
Main political parties.
Yes.
You got to be extremely rich to be able to get even their ticket.
Exactly. Imagine somebody running for president and the amount you pay to get the ticket alone.
You're looking at 100 million, even more in some of the parties. How many people have worked 100 million throughout their lives? The people that have
100 million, where do you get it?
Or some parties 25 million, some even go beyond 100 million. So it becomes a way of kind of screening out a set of people, a society, a chunk of a society. You're screening them out of the political process. You are disenfranchising them because they haven't got the means. And most of the people that have got the brain power, that have got the ideas, often do not have the means. This is why you see the older generation, the what they call them, the older generations of people are the ones that are ruling across Africa, including Nigeria, because they're the ones that got the financial wherewithal,
and which is our money anyway,
to be able to,
the money with them is our money.
That sort of political,
and the means by which they get the money is questionable.
Of course,
if that is the case, Dr. Charles, can we really come out and say, "Hey, Nigeria, what you guys are doing is wrong. Burkina Faso, what you're doing is wrong"? Because we seem to be glorifying.
Well, I have a different view, which you may not like.
No, I may not.
From experience,
yes.
I'm saying from experience.
Yes.
And if you look at all the countries across the world, particularly in Africa, where military experimentation has taken place, it has not in any way advanced development. Nigeria practiced military rule for how many years? Throughout those periods, the majority of the military rulers came from the north. And yet today we're told that the most impoverished part of Nigeria is the northern part of Nigeria. So the theory is that the best military government is still worse than the worst civilian government.
Okay, that would be an interpretation.
In terms of infrastructural development, we may not like what is happening in our country, for example. We may not like the fact that the younger generations who have got these brilliant ideas are not given the opportunity. In other words, we have more analog leaders leading digital world or leading digital population. And you have people who are highly mobile, highly digital savvy, and people who are technological savvy, who can relate to the things of the world, but they're not given the opportunity to bring about, to utilize their ideas.
So you said it's based on experience. We'll come back to that. But let's be sincere now. Look at what is happening in Africa, for instance. You have, thank God, Nigeria has a graduate this time. Tinubu is a graduate, and he's an accountant. And otherwise, you see the life of Buhari, a pure analog man, running the affairs of a country as big as Nigeria in the 21st century, where everything has gone digital. Gone are the days where you don't see people can't live without a mobile phone. Yeah. And the mobile phone now is computer in its own sense.
Of course.
People are moving fast. The power is big. And the world is moving at that pace.
The world is moving fast. You're looking, if you in the part where we live, this part of the world where we live,
yes.
People are thinking that they're not talking more in terms of artificial intelligence, drone technology.
Thank you, sir.
They're talking about big data. They're talking about all these things, and if forecasting what's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years. And we are still very much behind third generations in terms of technological evolution.
Doctor, this is exactly what I'm trying to say. That's why I'm trying to jump into the military aspect. I'm going to support it for some reason. Let me put it this way. Look at where the kind of governance we still have in Africa, especially in Nigeria. I know which is going to be my next question. What moral ground will be a thing? But how can we be in the 21st century be talking of infrastructural governance? Infrastructural governance, the governor that does well is the one that packs sand on the road.
Yeah.
And the one that brings in electricity. A thing of the past. When people are moving into artificial intelligence, like you really said,
I think
where are we?
The onus is on you and I, who have seen governors in different parts of the world, to be able to say to our people that, look, you shouldn't go on the social media platform or any media platform to say our governor have paid salary.
Yes. You see, if I paid pension.
Yeah,
the last time I was so angry when they said Wike is one of the best governors. He has performed. Yes, and I said, look at what the people do.
And that's one of the obligations.
No, with what? With how much amount of money? The idiot is parking sand on road and he said, oh, I have built this bridge. He begin to dance with his broken legs. No, that guy is an idiot. You know how many people who are in poverty?
Yeah.
And with the amount of money Rivers State has, a wise governor or an intelligent governor, that state will be flying. He doesn't need Nigeria to go. Look at Lagos.
I think the thing is that we need to move from our psycho-fancy behavior.
Thank you.
And start to interact and interrogate these leaders. And we need to be able to empower our electorate and our citizens to say, look, this is our money. You are given an agency relationship between you and ourselves. Yeah. We've elected you to represent us.
Yes.
We want to see your balanced scorecard at the end of a period. What have you done with the money and the trust that we've given to you? We need to be able to interrogate our system. We also need barometers. We need to set barometers to measure
exactly
what we regard as performance.
Thank you, sir. Yeah. And what if you see, you can't blame our people that much, because like you rightly said, and I want this to sink into the heads of Nigeria. Modern governors are no more talking. Modern governors in the Western world, they're not talking about how you're going to put electricity.
No,
water. You understand? Water.
They're over 200 years ago.
They're looking about how they're going to artificial intelligence. You understand? How things going to move.
Yeah.
A computerized world, digital world. Yeah. And we are not part of that. And Africa want to move and we want to compete. And we're going to remain slave forever.
No, I think what bothers me as somebody who is also involved in human capital development here is the fact that we're not investing in the future. We have a generation of very savvy young people.
Thank you, sir.
We're not harnessing their creativity. We are not. We are letting it slide.
It's there.
You know, I'm just going to say, for example, I know this is not a good reputation to have. Nigerians, young people are known to be very good with all this technology. They do also negative things with them.
What option do they have?
But we should be able to see how we can harness those creativities. We can harness those intellects. We can harness those core capabilities and turn them into productive endeavors. For example, we should be looking at how we encourage technopreneurship in our society. This is where technology-driven entrepreneurial activities are encouraged. But unfortunately, we're not doing that. It pains me in the last administration where the Minister for Technology, when asked how he was going to develop the country, said, oh, I found a clue. We're going to develop pencils. And we're going to be the best pencil manufacturer in the world. And I was just crying.
You'll be crying.
So often what a
disaster.
The problem we have in our country is that we usually put a round peg in a square hole. And this is where we have problems. Because of the way we appoint people who are loyal, not necessarily because they are technologically savvy, or not necessarily because they are intellectually sound. We also appoint people who are sycophants, people who will come to you and say, my leader, you are the best.
Yes.
I appreciate what you said, even though the leader has not done anything at all. But I also want to give it up to some of the leaders. Some of the leaders have their son up there, but it's just that they're more interested in developing and looking after their stomach infrastructure than developing the country as a whole.
No, but I see that if I'm a leader, I'm probably going to try and make a lot of money. But what they're doing now is not really making money. Stupidity, because okay, does that stop them really from embarking on policies that will actually bring in more money so they can make more money? Because I don't see any reason why.
Well, the thing is, the biggest problem we have, I can use Nigeria as a case study, is the fact that people go into politics to make money. Whereas in other parts of the world, particularly in the Western world, people go into politics to change lives.
Okay. Dr. Sir, if I go into politics to make money, this is exactly what I'm trying to say, which is fine, fair enough. But how do I make money? Is it by stealing the money? What I'm thinking
that's
is,
what I'm saying. The point is that I'm just trying to be politically correct in the program by not accusing people, because across the board
we have to.
But the truth is that the majority of the people that seek political office, unfortunately, where we come from, are doing so not because they want to make good, or they want to improve public goods, or they want to develop the country. They want to make the life of a poor man a lot better, or they want to alleviate poverty and all the rest. Even when they preach about poverty alleviation, they are doing it on the lip service. Let me give you an example.
Okay.
Money was earmarked for IDP.
Yes.
You know, the money never even got there. And the politicians, people who were suffering in these camps, in these internal displaced camps, you see the sort of lives, the standard of living those people were compelled to endure, and yet money that was earmarked to support them, for some reason, some wicked souls.
Doctor, I don't want to share one image to the world, because we are in the outside world now. Anything we do, we only kill the image of Nigeria. They said there's some palliative, some money given to the state government. If you see what happened in Shomolu local government in Lagos State, I should put my voice down, people. People shouldn't hear this. It's a shame. But Dr. Really, this is what concerns me. I'm a governor. I want to make money. But let me think simple. Right? For instance, look at Niger State, for instance. Niger State, the land alone, the land in Niger State could grow crops, and now organic crops that will feed the whole of Africa and Europe.
I share your views. I share your pain.
Yes.
Isn't it strange that Ukraine and Russia war exposed the fact that Ukraine is the largest grain exporter in the world? We have all the land to cultivate grain.
Holland alone, sir. Holland generates over 20 billion from agricultural export.
We can create
the land in Niger State is far better. In fact, you know the funny thing. Some people will even choose to do organic products, because now that's what the Europeans want. They are growing these fertilizers, and we can grow organically, improve on our own, and give them the best food to eat. They will be paying heavily for it.
That's correct. That's correct.
What is called leadership? If none of the governors, I'm not even talking of the presidency now, if none of the governors are that productive to engage the people,
we need a system. We need to fine-tune our system such that they'll be able to have checks and balances. What we have at the moment, the legislative arm that is supposed to check.
Is it lack of ideas or wickedness?
It's a combination of all.
Because it's very simple. I have the young people. I have, for instance, look at Niger State. They have this vast land. They collect free money from the federal government from oil, and they have people who they can engage to make money.
I think
the
will is just not there. Among the ruling class, the will is not just there.
Talk about maybe they don't listen. Look at one young boy came on here. He's on a show with my presenter, and he said, as they were having their conversation, I was just listening. The young man said he can train young people in ICT. Doctor, you know what ICT has done for India?
Of course.
Supposing you even see a governor, you don't need magic to do this. A governor that say, hey, in my time, in the first 1 year, I'm going to train 5,000
Well, even then, you are even going into training, because the gestation period for training, and it might take about 5 years or 4 years for them to develop. For them to develop and have that sort of competence and all that. But let's just narrow it down to agriculture. Grain takes less than 1 season. If we have decided that, so there is market for grain
now,
since the Ukraine war started, exactly. Okay, we'll have these huge arable lands that we can cultivate and turn them into grain. We don't need technology for grain. We just need tractor to plow the ground and drop a few grain there. And we are very lucky. Our rainy season is perfect. We don't have droughts and all that sort of stuff. But we need people that have the will, people that can think.
Is it a matter of will now? Because sometimes we will be insulting people who goes to church every day. Because the funny thing, I know you come from church now, Doctor.
I did.
I went to church today. Now, Israel didn't wait for God to grow their agricultural sector. Our people go to Israel. They go where?
Pilgrimage,
to Mecca, to where? To Israel.
Yeah.
And one thing that is in Israel is not the hallelujah God you see there, but the agriculture. They developed that land into something else, dry land.
I think we had this discussion some time ago. What we need is a complete reprogramming of Nigerian minds.
Of everybody, right from A to Z.
We need to start thinking differently. We need to start thinking what is impossible and say, let's make impossible possible. We need to start completely saying, look, what we've done in the last 60 years or so has not worked, has not produced the desired result. We have an army of young people, amiable youth, exuberant energy, who are just lying.
Doctor, the funny
follow.
Imagine if West had that population.
Of course, they would be.
If you imagine that, because this population here are old people.
Look at what's happening now. They are importing health workers across the world, even from Nigeria. They come and work,
and they're not taking advantage of it. There's a guy who was running for government in the state, and when I put him on my show here, he said that Chris, if he becomes the governor, that he's going to convert all the general hospitals to teaching hospitals. And I told him what he's going to do. That he said, I'm going to train medical professionals for export.
Well, that's what Philippines do. That's what they do. Their major export is human capital.
So if we have the young people in Nigeria, how can you be clapping for a fool who is taking money to Pakistan on road? I don't understand my people. That is why I'm confused.
Well, that's why I'm saying that it requires a lot of reorientation, education, and opening up the corrective reasoning and thinking of the young people. What is even more sad about this discussion is that you will see, if you go home with all these your brilliant ideas and get a group of young people together and say, look, I have these brilliant ideas, I want to implement them. You'll be surprised that they will disown you very quickly.
I know.
Because you haven't got the cash.
But Doctor, you can understand them. You can understand them. That's why I want to fight those people who are actually put them where they are. Because somebody did something to them. These guys are in bondage, in captivity.
They don't know. Let me give you an example. Yes. I think it was in the Soviet Union in the early days. I can't remember the person who did it, but I think it was one of the Soviet leader. He did an experiment, and that's exactly what's happening in Nigeria, in most African countries. He brought a hen with full feather to the Politburo, and he started plucking the feather.
Amazing.
Of each of the end, of the end, to the end. The end was in pain. You know what it means to pull. Exactly. He pulled every single feather in the body of this particular end. Yes. At the time he finished, he put the end on the ground, and the end was barely able to stabilize itself, but it was just trying to move. Then he went out and got a handful of corn, threw it on the floor, and because despite the fact that it was in pain, they responded by picking up the food. He said that's what you do to the peasants. You traumatize them, strip them of their dignity, reduce them. Then at the end, just throw some crumbs at them, and they will come and say to you, Baba. That's exactly what
I'm loyal. You are loyal. If not, Dr. Chad, before we end this show, which is quite short, painfully enough, look at our leaders, even the way they run the state. A police, have you seen a stupid commissioner? They have 3 policemen. And in fact, a senator have about 8 policemen. In this country, who are you to have one man?
Well, I think because of the way they've ruled.
No, that's exactly what you said now.
Yeah, but because of the way they've behaved, because of the fact that they are not having all this trickle down economic ideology where they feel that our role is to look for social mobility, where people can rise up to positions where they can feed and earn for themselves. So they are insecure going on the street. Here, an MP goes on the same public transport with yourself. You see them on the street.
Yes.
You shake their hands. They have your
exactly.
And you engage them.
Exactly.
In a discussion. They are free. But where we are, they need these paraphilias. They need all these security gadgets. But you're even talking about those. What about the security votes that our people get to secure themselves?
Let's not go there.
There are all sorts of areas where we're going wrong.
The money of security vote, like I said, when I was talking to the other governor of my state, the money the guys were getting 2-point-something billion. Security vote in a month.
Yeah, I know.
Dr. Jazz, in a month.
It's sad. It's sad.
A state where people cannot feed. You cannot pay people 30,000 naira. Somebody's getting 2-point-something. Security billion. Security vote.
The thing is that because these people have entrenched themselves so much, going back to what we said, how the program started, we're looking at military coup and
exactly.
some of the factors that are fueling this sort of phenomenon. Is the behavior of some of these politicians. They are so extravagant, they are so nonchalant, they are so
and they have their children are here.
Their power
studying here.
They care less about the plight of the Nazis.
We are actually stupid people, because what is the point of robbing your own money and using the same money to send your child abroad or take treatment abroad? But that Buhari, who was coming out for treatment, he couldn't even address
I had a lady a few days ago who came to my office. We were having a discussion. She came here for an eye test. So you don't need. It's not rocket science. We have a lot of opticians at home.
Doctor, you know what I say to them? And in case you don't know, he is Dr. Chaz. He's my accountant. He's from no state, Nigeria. He's the same Nigerian man. So it's not as if it's a white guy or one English man that is taking care of my account here. My medical doctor, my GP, is actually an Indian. So they are not. Who did this to us? So the people that actually go from our place, instead were relocated to a place and became slaves in another land.
Yeah, it is. It's all about control. It's all about social control system. It's the way people control the population so that they can tour their way of thinking. What we, like I said at the onset of this discussion, what we need as Nigerians is a total reprogramming of our mindset. We need to recalibrate the way we think. We need to throw away those things that we think are not working and completely overhaul our thinking process. We need to, even as the electorate, we need to also look at our electoral system and the younger people that we are fighting for. You will be amazed during the election time. They are the one killing themselves.
You cannot blame this.
When it comes to that,
do they know?
End plucking syndrome.
They pluck all their feathers and
they become unnormed. They removed all their thinking and they just want to survive. Because of the need to survive, any little money that comes is that my leader, I'm loyal.
Exactly.
You are my life and all that. And they reach themselves.
Listen, I'm gonna have Dr. Chaz again and again on this show, but today we came in late, Sunday thing. That's why I said it should give us a better time. But listen, I'm gonna have him one-on-one, always on this program. And Doctor, it's always a pleasure to have you, because what you bring in, I wish Nigerians can listen to some of these things. It's good for us, for our children. Even for when we soon gonna be old.
I think what I would advise you do, maybe in your politics shows, try to bring people in this country that will start to educate us as to how does the representation work here in this how country. Can the citizens hold their government to account? What are the mechanisms that they can implement? For example, in this country, the MP will have a surgery at least once a month with his constituency.
In fact,
this is where the constituency
one on one.
They will interrogate them and say, "What are you doing for us?" And this is where the citizen also lobby the MP to say, look, this is something we are of concern, or we are concerned about. Take it to House of Parliament and table it for debate. Well, we need to look at.
There's no representation in Nigeria. They say there's representation.
No, but the power belongs to the people.
Yeah, I know.
But
if we have that, if we have what
the people need to know that the power belongs to them. And we then need to educate them on how they can better exercise that power. At the moment, there are no educational process that enables the younger generation to say, look, we have the power, we have the collective, yes. If we have the collective will, yes. Let's target this power to wrestling political power from this elite group that has taken us for granted. But often you find young people, they become very aggressive, they become very antagonistic, you know, they become more political in a way, and that does not yield, you know. They need more systematic approach to this, to gaining power from, you know, because if the youth themselves are able to organize and say, well, we're not voting for you,
you're gone.
That's it.
In fact, they can
actually
seize power like the military. You understand? The young people in Nigeria, expect them to have a civilian coup.
All they need is 3 years of concerted effort.
That's it.
And they strategize as to this is what we're going to do. We don't care whether it's an Igbo man. No. We don't care whether it's an Hausa man. We don't care whether it's an Yoruba man.
Nobody really cares.
We want somebody that is intellectually sound that will deliver for the country.
Thank you very much. That's where we're going to end the show today, because they're just kicking us out of the studio because it's at the hour 4 o'clock. So we're going to leave for the other show to take on. Listen, I'm listening to Dr. Shas. I want to have you more and more, but I'm going to arrange this, even if we have to do it in another location. I need to have Dr. Shas. You see, Nigerians, I want to say this. There are a lot of people with the right ideas who can help to move that country to the next level. In fact, before the election, I interviewed somebody who's a young man representing APC in the diaspora. And when I spoke to him, that guy will deliver for Nigeria. Instead, he's now the one propagating an older man. I know, no offense, Baba.
Remember the syndrome?
Yes.
Feather plucking syndrome.
Feather plucking syndrome. And listen, if you don't get anything from this show, please go and check the feather plucking syndrome. Please check it out. Read it up, research it. Doctor, we need to have the documentary on this so Nigerians can watch. It is too important. But that's where we're going to end the show today. Yes, Doctor, thank you so much for joining me. Listen, I'm going to have you again and again on this show. It's not going to be the same. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to play one track that's really troublesome. So be careful. I love it a lot. I don't know why. It's another new fella. Let's go. Goodbye, and I'll see you next time.
And the second election all in Nigeria.
Politicians promise anything, make you not believe in them. Politicians promise you, make you not believe in them. Politicians promise anything, make you not believe in them. Politicians promise you, make you not believe in them. Inside their mouth, truth to know day. Inside their eyes, corruption day. Inside their heart, wickedness day. Once they get into power, now when to then go gain, now in their brain, then we type one man will change.